On the Fringe with Dan radio style. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. Just incredible stuff going on in the news. Obviously, a lot of slanting towards Trump. Anything he says at all, they're going to try to spin it into some untruths. We've got Kamala still claiming stuff that we've got everybody else admitting is not true, which is going to start to make Kamala look bad. Got that going on. Also, concerning stuff kind of going on in the Middle East, in the war there. It's very interesting what's going on. Obviously, Ukraine trying to make their efforts to escalate, but that's not going well. But what's happening with Israel and Iran could be concerning. I don't know. We're going to see. We got a lot going on. Certainly a lot of election news, and that's a big part of why we're doing a show today. Obviously, once the election happens, I don't know. I might take a day off, man. I doubt I'll be able to. Needless to say, this is super funny. I want to start here because this is so damn funny. And just, we need to start with a little bit of humor, right? Otherwise, myself will go crazy. That's for sure. I don't know how you guys will do it, but me will go nuts. That entertains me so much, but they got to have at least 2 strings on this because that thing is reasonably stable. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Whatever it is, I don't know. The squirrels, by the way, is going to tie into another very sad story, believe it or not. So also why I started with the squirrel story. Sadness coming. Donald Trump Jr. reposted this. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s post said, "When you realize that the 2 most profitable businesses are war and illness, it's easy to understand what's going on." It is, right? I think so many of us see what's happening right now. We should, I hope. Donald Trump posted this. "Everything we have been fighting for these past 4 years comes down to the next 4 days." Actually, less than that, but close. Next 3 days. "We've been setting records in the early voting, but we can't let up. In-person early voting in Michigan ends on Sunday. It's now or never. Michigan got to get out there, get that vote in early." They've been having some problems, too, I think, in Michigan. Certainly in Pennsylvania, major problems. Arizona's doing some weird shenanigans. We're seeing stuff all over the place. Some county here in California printed a bunch of ballots incorrectly with bad barcodes. So, yeah, there's all sorts of crazy stuff that's happening everywhere. We're going to kind of stay on top of it. This was just stupid funny. This kid nailed this part, too, by the way. Obviously, you can tell who he is, but he does a great job. Check this out.
Hey, Ro, tell Miss Carnes who you are for Halloween.
Okay, let's see. Come on. You know, when they took a shot at my hero, and they tried to kill the next president of the United States, enough was enough! And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother! Let Trumpomania rule again! Let Trumpomania make America great again! Woo!
He even did a good job with the huffing and puffing, because that's totally something that he does. And I don't know if it's just because he's out of wind legitimately. Could be. I'm getting older. I notice I get out of wind doing stupid stuff, and I'm like, man, you do like time on the treadmill and Stairmaster every week, and here you are like huffing and puffing. What the frick is wrong with you? All said. The story's been going around a while, and I guess the relevance is what the story's going to say directly. Outside of that, I wonder why it matters. So anyway, when the Titanic was made, there was a sister ship, or a twin ship, probably even a better way to say it, I believe called the Olympic. So many are suggesting, and based off the evidence of the thing at the bottom of the ocean, aka what we call the Titanic, it seems to very much look like the Olympic. Based off these windows in this upper deck area or whatever, the Olympic had these more vertical, I guess, type windows, while the Titanic had more rectangular windows, and there's also more spaces between these windows on the Olympic, and that's what we also seem to see here as well. Now, many would say, who cares? It's a twin ship, whoopee. Supposedly, there was a big difference in the insurance. So this seems to have been some extreme insurance fraud, certainly one of the things that have been talked about. Also, the fact that there were some very unique people on this ship that I think were supposed to sign something about, or trying to get us out of the Federal Reserve, or were fighting getting us in the Fed, I think is what it was. And those people were coincidentally killed or died. Sorry, better way to say it. So anyway, there's evidence to suggest that it was not, in fact, the Titanic, but its sister ship, the Olympic. I'm sure that's an easy thing to kind of prove, in all honesty. It's got to be somewhere stamped in that wreckage, but yeah, it might be dangerous to get to it, or in fact it is. It's a graveyard, too, on top of everything else, but yeah, messed up. State treasurers push for divestment from China, citing red flags regarding CCP control. We've got a number of states, there are 15 of them, that are sending a letter to public pension fund fiduciaries, urging them to cut ties with China-based investments due to Chinese Communist Party control. This is going to be interesting how this plays out. One of the issues is we know there's a number of governors that China has decided are ripe for the picking, ripe for the communist picking. So how many of these states are not actually going to allow this to happen? How many of these states are actually going to fight this and be like, no, there's no reason to do that. We can invest in these companies. That's why you're just being China-phobic or whatever, some name-calling thing. But it's probably because they're in bed with China, and China's giving them money, probably, allegedly, maybe. The 18 financial officers, who include some state treasurers, they're from Alabama, Arkansas. Why is there's 15 up top and now 18? Oh, the letter's from 18 treasurers. 15 states are sending a letter. Was there some states that multiple treasurers are talking? Maybe, whatever. 18 treasurers, 15 states, Alabama, Arkansas, Alaska, Arizona, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, Nebraska, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, and Wyoming. All the states that are involved. Again, interesting. I think other states should be. I know Florida did something similar to this, I think already, where they pulled out of some weird stuff for the state pension. So again, it just depends on the states, and I think some are maybe have already done some stuff. But that was, I don't know. We'll see. I'm more interested to see who pulls out of it. It's a great idea. They should be doing it. Duh, of course. We should not be investing in CCP companies. Again, why I frequently talk about, DRS like Scold.com. Like, we should not be investing that way. That's for sure. Something that's obviously very interesting. Something that's equally interesting is me leaving my camera off for as often as I do. I swear I think I click it sometimes, and I look at a different screen, and I just don't see myself not being there. So, sorry. Jeff Bezos of Amazon, he sold 16 million shares, 16 plus million shares of Amazon, worth $3+ billion. This is the second time he's made a reasonably large sale in the not too distant past. Is he trying to pull some money aside for a purchase? Maybe. It's possible. Might be buying another company. Don't know. It's a lot of money. I mean, it's not like you just pull a bunch of cash out because the economy's about to crash, unless he's buying a bunch of precious metals or something. Because you don't. Cash is not a good thing right now. Inflation's killing it. So keeping your money in cash is actually not a smart move over the long haul. Short term, yes. Short term, you need some cash. You're going to need liquid for sure. Long term, $3 billion worth of cash? He's got to be looking at buying something. I want to say the other one was close to $2+ billion, but anyway, he's sold a bunch of stocks. And again, maybe we know something bad that's going to happen with Amazon stock for whatever reason. That's possible too. Maybe they're going to raise their rates significantly, and that's going to hurt their stock. Who knows? Who knows? Something's up, though. It's a weird indicator. Something to keep in mind as we go into these crazy days. If you're invested in a 401k or an IRA, that means you've got years of your wealth, years of your extra money, and that's what it was, extra money put into these stocks. So it's based off the dollar and it's based off stocks. Now, these funds generally in a 401k or an IRA, unless you know the individual, are generally managed by fund managers, or funds in general are managed by these organizations, such as Vanguard, such as BlackRock, and others that are likely tied into some of the deep state stuff as well. Like Fidelity is a really popular one too, right? So What are they investing in? You have no control over it for the most part. You can check how aggressive you want them to be, which is just generally how much of it's going to go into, tech stocks versus other stuff or whatever, stuff that gives you dividends versus not. But the problem is a lot of these companies that they typically invest in that they call safe companies are actually the deep state companies. So there's a couple problems with that. One, you're allowing them to take your dollars and invest it in their companies. You're helping keep their companies looking better on the balance sheet, making their companies worth more, making their companies count more. And then on top of that, when the deep state starts to get destroyed, like we're starting to see, Boeing's making some major changes. We'll see what happens from that. Obviously, the companies had their stock price go down quite a bit over the past number of months because of all the things that have been happening with them. And again, they were a really good person to be invested in. Anheuser-Busch was another one. That was actually, my stock guy had me in that. I lost some money in that because Anheuser-Busch and the Mulvaney thing. Again, these are the deep state companies. Get out of their system. Get into an asset that you actually own, you control, it's yours. There's not somebody managing it, it's you. It's physical metals stuck in a trust. That's how you get out of it tax-free, penalty-free, which is what I highly recommend. If you cashed out, you would pay a penalty, and then on top of that, taxes. It'd be quite a hit. Close to 50 to 70% of your money would be gone if you just cashed it out, and you're like, I'll just cash it out. Again, cash is not a great thing unless it's something you need. Otherwise, you want to keep a nest egg going and you want to grow it in wealth and value. Precious Metals IRA. They're awesome. Go to drslikesgold.com. drslikesgold.com. You'll also qualify up to 10% of your total value. Okay, so whatever your 401k or IRA is, if it's $2,500, fine, you're going to get $250 of free silver. If it's $25,000, you get $2,500 of free silver. $100,000, you're getting $10,000 in free silver. 10% free silver. Silver's underappreciated right now. The prices have definitely been going up, much like gold, over the past year, for sure. It's actually in a small lull right now, which is great. It's a perfect time to buy. Get out of their system. Get into things that have been moving up extremely. In fact, of assets that are positive overall, precious metals and Bitcoin are the two assets, when you take inflation into account, that are actually netting positive. It's an excellent investment, and it's going to continue to be, especially as we go through some of the crazy that's happening. I don't know how long you want to wait. I think a lot of this stuff has to happen kind of sooner than later. We got the war's got to happen because that can't happen so much when Trump's there, but maybe he needs to be. Who knows? Again, none of us know how this is going to play out. We're all like reading the magic 8-ball like everybody else. Get out of their system. Everybody that got out a year ago, they're stoked because the prices of gold and silver have gone up so much over the past 8 months that they're sitting pretty. It's got way more growth built into it. Get out of the dying inflated dollar. Get out of the stocks that are tied to the deep state companies. Get out. Take your money with you. Don't give it to them. Do it tax-free, penalty-free, and own the outcome. Own the precious metals. It's in a trust. You can cash it out at some point down the road if you want to. Of course, there's going to be penalties and taxes at that time, but you can get the precious if you want it. If not, leave it in the trust, and you can continue to add to it or even draw from it if you need to. Check it out. There's so much great information. Go to drslikesgold.com, drslikesgold.com, plus 10% free silver. Can't beat it. drslikesgold.com, drslikesgold.com. Let my good friends at Goldco help you. Best customer service, and they will help you every step of the way. A lot going on with elections, of course. Now, this is one that the Secretary of State for Colorado is just, her resting bitch face is so intense. And then just her absolute bitchiness that comes through is pretty intense. I don't know, maybe I'm reading into it too much. She has bitchy written all over me. And I don't know, she might want to call it strong woman, whatever. I don't give a shit what she calls it. Bitchy is what I'm calling it, all right? Maybe she's a ball buster. She's bitchy when she does it. She just got it written all over her. It's not a slam on women, it's a slam on her for sure. Needless to say, the dude calls her out like 3 times on her own words that she doesn't like. She keeps trying to divert and deflect and all that stuff.
In 2021, when Mesa County's voting system passwords leaked, your office said, quote, "The public disclosure of the BIOS passwords for one or more components of Mesa County's voting system alone constitutes a serious breach of voting system security protocols. By that standard, did your office commit a serious breach of voting system security protocols?
No. There's several things. First off, the situation in Mesa County is very distinct to the situation that we are facing today. Because of that, Tina Peters was just convicted of 9 years of incarceration. We were actively investigating the password disclosure as part of a bigger security breach in Mesa County.
Pardon me. What your office said was that the public disclosure of the BIOS passwords alone constituted a serious breach of voting system security. So now that your office has leaked passwords, does that also constitute a serious breach of voting system security protocols?
Well, to push back on you, Kyle, that sentence is in the press release, but there is a much bigger press release. And part of that investigation in Mesa County was 2 sets of passwords, unauthorized access, stolen passwords, and it was in a different time. Since 2021 and what happened in Mesa County, our security has improved, including the 24/7 hour cameras, including the badge and access. The law has been significantly strengthened since then. We have multiple layers in place to ensure situations like Mesa County don't occur, and that is not what is occurring here.
Again, the word choice that it was the passwords alone that constituted the serious breach was, again, the words used by your office.
God, I mean, It's just the way her mouth is. Like, it's just gross. It's disgusting. It's so bitchy. It's got bitchiness all over it. Ugh. DNC sues Georgia County to extend ballot receipts deadline for undelivered ballots. This is one of those catch-22s for sure. I'm not sure who's behind this, frankly, either. This is kind of one of those funny ones. But Georgia voters sued to extend the ballot receipt deadline for over 3,000 voters in Cobb County who still haven't received their mail-in ballots. So the DNC and the Georgia Democratic Party filed this lawsuit. Now, this is like a failure on their own system, and they're trying to use it, it seems, to open up a doorway, I think, we'll see, to allow a bunch of extra ballots to come through because of a mistake that they've made that they're supposedly trying to resolve. But this mistake they made, they supposedly had a problem printing out some ballots. They were not going to be delivered in time. Last day that they can have them postmarked is, I believe, the day before the election. So they need to get them in. But it said ballots, so long as they're received, let's see, lawsuit asked the county mail-in ballots sent in to affected voters, even if they aren't delivered by election day. They said that as long as these ballots are received by November 8th, the deadline for military and overseas voters, they should be considered on time in this extenuating circumstance. Because, yeah, they made a mistake. Now, this all comes from, let's see, they've failed to send out thousands of absentee ballots to voters within 3 days of their applications being processed due to a surge of last-minute absentee ballot applications, almost like they're trying to cheat or something. Everything's last minute, so they want to use this last-minute surge that they're probably behind as a reason to extend the deadline, so they've now got a place where they can count ballots and push whatever extras they need in. This is very interesting. This lawsuit, we'll see what happens. I mean, they haven't let us get away with anything this close to the election, but it's not us that's asking for this, is it? So we'll see. We'll try to stay on top of this and see what happens. Justice Department supposedly going to monitor elections in 86 counties, most in 2 decades. I don't think they give us a list of the counties. Let's see. With monitors planning to visit 6 counties in Michigan, 5 in Georgia, 4 in Wisconsin and Arizona, 3 in Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and 1 in Nevada. Supposedly monitors are also going to be present in a mix of red and blue states, including California, Florida, Maryland, Missouri, Ohio, Virginia. Texas and Massachusetts have the most jurisdiction on the list with 8 apiece. The announcement quickly drew opposition from top Republicans in Florida and Missouri, states that banned federal monitors from polling sites in 2022 midterms. In Florida, Secretary of State Cord Byrd said he would ban federal authorities from entering polling sites in the 4 counties from his state: Broward, Miami-Dade, and Orange and Osceola? I don't know. Don't care. But yes, so yeah, we even had Ron DeSantis come out and said, hell no. Florida tells DOJ their election monitors are not permitted inside polling places. period. And they actually, I think, have precedence over them. So again, what are the feds trying to do? You, me, we don't trust them. Obviously, I don't care if they are maybe trying to do a good thing. My guess is it'd be the opposite, trying to somehow influence the election in a bad way, somehow trying to, I don't know, turn people against each other, somehow trying to bust Republicans for doing something, showing up with a Let's Go Brandon hat. Voters received creepy pamphlets from Democrat-linked group intimidating them into casting a ballot. Maryland voters, I guess, are getting these intimidating letters, they're calling them, saying that their neighbors are keeping tabs on them and whether they have or have not voted. And so they're kind of making it public. They're shaming them, it seems, maybe into voting. I don't believe they can see what they voted for because that would be illegal. This letter, which hit mailboxes in Baltimore, begins, "We're sending this mailing to you and your neighbors to share who does and does not vote in an effort to promote election participation. While we have hidden the name and street numbers of your neighbors to protect privacy, these are true voting records." So people are freaking out about it. Again, this might be something we're sort of behind. Who knows? I mean, again, I don't know who's who. It seems Democrat, but at the same time, we need to get out and vote, and we need to make sure it happens. So hard to say, but there is a lot going on right now. Now, here is something that's very interesting, and I almost didn't want to play this, but considering how much legs this ridiculous story has gotten, we had to. So we talked about yesterday Arizona's the Liz Cheney comment right in front of 9 rifles when she's holding one herself, which, anyway, long story short, he was talking about the neocons and the way they like to do wars, right? The war hawks. And he was basically saying, would she be such a war hawk if she was the one that had to go out on the front lines? I'm just simplifying greatly what he said. Now he sprinkled in some, she's an idiot, she's stupid, whatever, which pisses people off, but whatever, I don't care. I mean, name calling is the thing right now. Both sides do it, unquestionably. I would say the left is hardcore does it, but we do plenty of it on our side. That's, especially on Twitter. That's why they say it's so toxic, because we kind of do our own version of name calling and giving people a hard time. Again, right, wrong, and different, who cares? But Arizona's Attorney General is now investigating this as to whether or not Trump has committed a crime against Liz Cheney. It's insane. So we're going to play this because it's insane, and then we'll get into some of the other stuff regarding this story.
And Bram Resnick, the political anchor and reporter from our NBC affiliate in Phoenix, KPNX, joins us. Talk about this breaking news regarding Donald Trump's comments that he made about Liz Cheney in Arizona last night. The Attorney General is responding?
That's right. I just spoke to Attorney General Chris Mays about 2 hours ago for the taping of my Sunday show. She told me she just gotten off the phone with her criminal division chief, and she was investigating whether what Donald Trump said about Liz Cheney constituted a death threat under Arizona law. I'll tell you, under Arizona law, it is illegal to make threats or intimidate someone. Can be charged as a Class 1 misdemeanor, Class 6 felony. Chris Mays told me they're looking into it. I asked her whether this was just political speech, free speech. She said we're checking to see if it crossed that line. But she also put it in the larger perspective. If you're here right now, you begin to understand how this place is ready for a high security event on Tuesday, an election. Our sheriff's office is talking about a no tolerance policy for protests. Chris Mays is activating all her agents. Every law enforcement agency in the state is involved with protecting the vote, protecting voters. So that's Chris Mays brought that into the conversation, that for Donald Trump to make these kinds of remarks at this time, such a really fraught and tense moment here in Maricopa County, is just bad.
Again, it's always Trump's fault, no matter what, even though the left has said some pretty crazy stuff. But this is not what Trump actually said. Even on Bill Maher, he had our matey Raskin on there. And the dude just kept wanting to go down and just try to drill on Trump. And even Maher's like, we'll get there, man. I get it. But I'm not, it's well done. I feel Bill Maher was trying to be fair to this and to Trump, which is interesting to hear people, again, being fair. Because it's about, honestly, like Bill Maher, myself, Elon Musk. I mean, there's a bunch of us. Bunch of you guys probably too. that were very very center left, maybe center right, maybe, I don't know, but very center. And then when the left went screaming off down the road, friends of mine had lots of friends that were Democrats, lots. And just many of them went so far it was impossible to even communicate anymore. So the fact that some people are still maintaining that centristness, I think is helpful right now in the big picture.
What do you make of the statement? I woke up today to the headline that Trump had called for a firing squad for Liz Cheney. And this is what I really don't like about the media. No, he didn't.
He did not.
You don't have to move me to not like Donald Trump.
He says
more
so
than
many
I
shitty
already,
things. Why do you have to do that?
And by the way,
Yeah.
if you Pete don't realize it, well, here's what he said. He's criticizing him for being a war hawk. I mean, she is Dick Cheney's daughter. He said, she's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay. Let's see how she feels about it. You know, they're all war hawks when they're sitting in Washington in a nice building saying, oh, gee, we'll send tens of thousands of troops right into the mouth of the enemy. Now, of course, he expresses himself horribly. He has to add, she's a stupid person because he's a moron.
Well, Trump knows what it's really like from Vietnam.
Okay. But just to be clear, this is exactly what hippies always said. This is exactly what peaceniks always said. This is Fortunate Son, the song. It's like, you know what? It's very easy to sit in your building and send young men to die, apropos of Ukraine.
Yes.
Because, I don't know, that war doesn't look like it's going in the right direction.
Not at all, no.
But just so, you know, just don't lie to me. I don't like Donald Trump. Don't lie to me and tell me he wants in front of a firing squad. He was saying something that, by the way, if it came out of the mouth, some of it, not the stupid part, again, sounds like what hippies used to say about
Bill,
not sending people to, yes.
I agree with you on the lying. I mean, that is ridiculous and absurd and counterproductive. But when did Donald Trump ever criticize a war hawk the way a hippie did? I mean, was it during Vietnam? He got out of going to Vietnam, but he didn't criticize
I'm not
the war
going
or
to
the Iraq
defend,
war.
Jamie,
Yeah.
I'm not defending Trump.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, don't lie to me.
I agree with that. I mean, that's just a distortion.
It's
But read what he really said.
It's counterproductive. I mean, the number of Trump people you talk to who talk about the media and giving them any ammunition like this. I mean, I saw headlines, chyrons on television this morning saying that Donald Trump had said that Kamala Harris should be executed. I mean, at the beginning of that kind of rambling, incoherent thing, she said, give her a weapon, which is not typically something you do to someone.
And again, the
executed.
spirit of it is something that if someone with the blue hat said it, people would nod along on the left. Yes, exactly.
There's plenty of things he says that you don't have to invent them.
Can I just say one thing? And I agree with you. All those criticisms are fair. But there's been a lot of violence, as Nancy Pelosi knows, and a lot of threats.
First off, DePape was not a Republican at all. He was everything to do with the left and everything on the left. Raskin. And yeah, there's been a lot of violence. Trump got shot at. There's been 2 other potential attempts because of the stuff you guys say, actually, that you keep calling him this guy that's going to destroy democracy, that he's going to come and arrest you, that he's coming to, well, you even say crazy shit like take your weapons and destroy the Constitution. It's like, this dude's so pro-Constitution and always has been. You all aren't. You all are the ones that want to restock the Supreme Court and stack it with more people so you can change all the laws because you don't like the Constitution and the freedoms it gives. Raskin, you fucking piece of shit. Sorry, it needed to be said. I don't... Needed a second one. Here's Trump. Newest hoax from the left. And Trump calling Liz Cheney the pile of trash that she is. So anyway, he's talking about this now.
She kills people. She wanted to, even in my administration, she was pushing that we go to war with everybody. And I said, if you ever gave her a rifle and let her do the fighting, if you ever do that, she wouldn't be doing too well, I will tell you right now. But she's a war hawk. She wants to go kill people unnecessarily. And if she had to do it herself and she had to face the consequences of battle, she wouldn't be doing it. So it's easy for her to talk, but she wouldn't be doing it. She's actually a disgrace.
What's really awesome about Trump is like Dearborn, Michigan. He's actually in a very Muslim area here, and this was a Muslim event. Trump's talking to the Muslims. Now, what's funny is the Democrats, and this is one of their biggest mistakes, is they take all these groups for granted. They assume that they've got that vote. But what they've come to find out is they don't. She obviously pissed off all the people that are pro-Palestine because she's got to be pro-Israel. Otherwise, she's going to piss off all the Jews that are Democrats, which was a huge number of the Jews. In America, anyways. Sorry, not all Jews are Democrats, right? But most of them in the United States are. Or were. So a lot of these things are changing. And Trump's the one that's actually going into not just the battleground states, because he's there too. This dude's doing like 3-4 events a day. But he's actually going into the deep blue states and just blowing them up. It's amazing. I look up to Trump for so many things, like as just a human being that's trying to invoke change or be a part of change. He is so freaking good at it. So good. He says stuff that pisses people off, but it gets your attention. So I don't care. I think it's actually relevant. Shock value, shock jocks. Howard Stern proved that worked. It's weird how he's fallen. So sad. Donald Trump truthed this out. All I'm saying about Liz Cheney is that she is a war hawk, and a dumb one at that. But she wouldn't have the guts to fight herself. It's easy for her to talk sitting far from where death scenes take place, but put a gun in her hand and let her go fight, and she'll say, no thanks. Her father decimated the Middle East and other places and got rich by doing so. He caused plenty of death and probably never even gave it a thought. That's not what we want running our country. 100% true. Here's Jake Tapper even kind of saying, man, we're going off the rails a little bit. My words.
When Trump said he was going to do something for women, whether they like it or not, whether the women like it or not, he was talking about protecting women whether they like it or not. Certainly you can take issue with the language, but he wasn't saying he was just going to do whatever he wanted, regardless of, Anyway, but let's talk. I mean, but you take my point. You don't disagree, right? I'm saying I'm going to protect them, whether the women want me to protect them, whether right.
And some would say that's misogynist, and that's.
But it's not as she presented it.
I think. Look.
Again, you can tell the people that showed up there to discuss a specific talking point, and Tapper, I think it's Tapper, whatever. This dude, I think it's Tapper. He kind of F's that up a little bit, or at least puts a weird like notch in the wheel. So now every time it's like gunk, 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 right? Like now it's just like this annoying bump that I keep hearing. Everything was smooth and groovy till you did that there, Tapper. Tappy Tapper. Tappy Tapperton. So this is, again, CNN is the one network that I actually hold out a little hope for, that it might actually eventually come around and do what it should, and I think it might. And then we've got Fox, I think, will come around or be better at being less stupid. I'm not trying to be mean for all you that watch Fox. There's plenty of good stuff that comes out of them. Certainly some very great people, but obviously what they did to Tucker and bowing to Dominion and all that. But there's a little struggle with the trust going on with the owner, Rupert Murdoch, I believe it is, right? And so his 4 kids, well, he's going to give it to one of them, Liam, I think it is. And the other 3 are suing him because he's changed the terms of the trust. And they don't like that. And in my opinion, my guess, anyways, my hope, is that Liam's actually the one that's more center right, maybe. I'm not hoping way right. I don't want that. I would center right would be perfect because you can see both sides a lot better from there. And I think you'll be more objective. It's more important, I think. We'll see. We'll see how we get there. But this messed that whole lady's day up. She was not ready for that. Kamala condemns Trump for wanting to protect women. Again, we know the truth. We've seen the quote. We've all heard the quote. And she's still continuing on with her lies.
We'll comment on the former president, Donald Trump's remark about women and whether they like it or not. And listen, it actually is, I think, very offensive to women in terms of not understanding their agency, their authority, their right, and their ability to make decisions about their own lives, including their own bodies. And this is just the latest on a series of reveals by the former president of how he thinks about.
I said, well, I'm going to do it whether the women like it or not. I'm going to protect them. I'm going to protect them from migrants coming in. I'm going to protect them from foreign countries that want to hit us with missiles and lots of other things.
But she wants to make it different, doesn't she? Yeah. It's just beautiful. I want to play this. I thought this was interesting. What role did Liz Cheney play in the J6 committee? I'm going to probably kick it up a teeny bit on the speed factor, but I want to play some of this because it's very interesting what he says. The Cassidy Hutchinson stuff was pretty good, and then I'm just like, shit, I'm already 30 minutes into this. I can't play the whole damn thing. So we're going to start at Liz Cheney. You guys maybe want to check out this interview that Tucker Carlson did. It was actually pretty good for all the parts of it I've heard. I haven't heard all of it, but about 30 minutes of it. Way longer than I wanted. Let's put it that way. And it was that good. Like, I was just like, ah, damn, that's interesting. What is he going to say next? Which is where I was with it. Here is the Liz Cheney part. I love how they break these up. It's so bitchin' how he does this. Brilliant. Brilliant.
So what role did Liz Cheney play in this?
So Liz Cheney, who was, I guess, technically the vice chair of the January 6th committee, which is, I don't think, actually technically a constitutional role, but she was one of the people who was running the January 6th committee. And as they had been blanketing Washington, D.C. with subpoenas, lots and lots of very, very young people would come back into talking to the folks that was colloquially called in Trump world. Hey, I just got contacted by the FBI. They want me to come testify. I have no idea what to do. And so there was a process for some of the younger lawyers to say, well, let's try to find lawyers for these people who will just help them navigate this investigation getting brought before the January 6th
Are these
committee.
people who smashed windows in the Capitol or assaulted cops with flagpoles?
No, absolutely. These are the people who happen to have been working in the Trump campaign in 2020 or had been working in the White House in 2020 or in some way had something to offer with respect to the dynamic.
Were some of them not at January 6th, the protest?
Oh, yeah. Nobody who I was representing was at a protest. Everyone who I was representing were people who had either worked in the White House or had worked for the Trump
So they had nothing
campaign.
to do with the January 6th demonstration?
No.
Okay.
The idea
I just want to be clear on that.
Was to create a narrative of what was happening inside the White House, what was happening inside the campaign from the election in 2020 through January 6th and afterwards, and to try to create a political narrative of what was happening. And sort of one of the 101 investigative rules is always start with the junior, youngest, most people, intimidate them, get them to say things that you can then use to create a political narrative or whatever the narrative was. And I'd represented a few of those fairly significant folks, but mostly I was being asked to help these very, very young people who were just getting hailed before this committee to try to give testimony. And it was
And they're
in the
using the
context of that.
FBI for this, just to be clear.
Oh, yes. No question. They would hand subpoenas, and I had one very young, she was working in the campaign office, couldn't have been more than 23, 24 years old, who told me the story. Not only did the FBI show up unannounced at her door, but when she answered the door, the FBI said, well, while we're here, you mind if we just ask you some questions about what you were doing, what was President Trump doing, what was the campaign doing with respect to messaging about January 6th, which to me as a lawyer, correct. There was
Was this girl at January 6th?
This girl was a campaign worker. So she was helping to put out, doing junior research of what was now colloquially called the Stop the Steal effort, that they were going after these younger folks trying to find out what it was that they were talking about. And to me as a lawyer, in order for the system to work, full transparency also requires that people's rights be protected. And that includes the right that you have somebody there who's protecting your interests. If you are a junior person who might have something to offer with respect to what happened in January 6th, query to me whether the January 6th even served a legislative function at all, but stipulating that it was there for some legislative purpose. People who are providing information under subpoena and under oath and under penalty of being found liable for false statements should have somebody there to protect their interests.
So you make a point that people might not be aware of. So the Congress is the legislative branch of government. And so the purpose of committee hearings in the Congress is to craft legislation.
Correct.
Right. There's no other purpose.
Correct.
Committees in the Congress do not exist to use the FBI to hound their political opponents into prison, correct?
Correct. And not only that, but the framers of the Constitution made it very, very clear there are to be three branches of government. There is a legislative branch that is only supposed to be making the laws. It's up to the executive branch to execute those laws, and then the judiciary to actually enforce those laws. That's a very clear standard. And when you have a legislative body, and this is what happened to me, and I'm sure we're going to get into it, that decides that they are going to drift beyond their legislative function, their fact-finding function in support of passing legislation, and they're going to move into a law enforcement method. We don't like this person. This person presents a narrative to us that we don't like. We are going to use the full weight and power of the United States government to try and execute that person without any due process of law. That is completely unconstitutional. And that is ultimately where I found myself at the end of this road.
So that's a police state function. That's not.
Exactly. And that is in fact exactly what ended up happening to me.
So, you discovered in the course of this, I was going to say you believe, but it's not a question of what you believe. It's a fact that Liz Cheney broke the law during the course of this investigation.
Yeah. I mean, the nice thing I think is there's nothing that I'm going to tell you today that's not written out under oath in testimony that's in black and white for anyone to see. I've just been trying to get people to pay attention and look at it. But and I have filed a lawsuit against the federal government on this point, saying that the federal government abused its power, and in this case, against me, by incorporating and taking certain information, distributing them out. Obviously, there's a number of things that the government lets you sue them for. There are a lot of things they don't let you sue them for. But one of the things that they did was they really invaded my privacy, and they did that in a way to deny me my civil rights because it was all in furtherance of a
But you're just
narrative.
the lawyer represent. I mean, our system affords every accused person accused of a serious crime legal representation, right?
Correct.
So you weren't at January 6th.
I was not at January 6th.
Have you ever planned an insurrection of any kind?
I did not plan any insurrections.
Right. So I just want to be clear on this. Like, you're not the defendant here.
Correct.
You're representing low-level staffers who were not at January 6th, not accused of any crime on January 6th, who had nothing to do with January 6th, and you're just their lawyer because they need a lawyer because the people conducting these investigations are so unscrupulous they can't go in without legal representation.
Correct.
Am I characterizing that correctly?
Exactly. And where I found myself in the wood chipper was that one of those people who I represented, who had given some 15 hours of testimony under oath before the committee, then terminated her relationship with me and gave diametrically different testimony to what had been said before.
That's a crime, isn't it?
Some would say, but it's
hold on.
clearly
No,
a
just
crime.
without even getting into the specifics of this, which I hope you'll explain to us, but it is not legal to commit perjury, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And it certainly presents something of a conundrum when a witness has presented one set of testimony under oath and then provides testimony under oath which could be seen as contradictory to the former testimony, and both of those elements of testimony were under oath. Yeah, that presents a significant
Try that in a
potential problem.
deposition.
Correct.
You go to jail.
Correct. Well, it's one of the lawyer's greatest sort of Matlock cross-examination that
been
everyone dreams of is, were you lying then or were you lying now?
Yeah, it counts. But and then even goes so far to get into how the conversation with Cassidy Hutchinson was happening when it should have been going through the lawyers and it was going through back channels. This friend of Cassidy's that was one of the hosts, I guess, on The View, interestingly. So again, a lot of very interesting information coming out of this, but ultimately we're seeing this entire illegal use of the judiciary branch, right? The executive branch was not definitely doing what they should be, and now they still aren't, which is really strange because I think our Congress, our House, is sort of doing what they were doing, except doing it legally. We're doing investigations, trying to get information, and they're not giving us the information that they should be giving, that if we wouldn't have given, they would have thrown us in jail. It's a weird little conundrum that's happening, and again, it just has to be played out so everybody can see it. I mean, I say that like a sideliner, basically, right? Just throwing popcorn, but when you're in the middle of it, and you're like, what the hell? Yeah, and that's why I keep, I'm prepared for whatever on this election. Because I know they're going to do whatever has to happen, and here's what I know, and here's how, this is the worst part about it. is it all entirely depends on where we are as a populace. You know, everyone keeps talking about Brunson. Brunson should have had Brunson. It's gonna at some point when we're ready, when we can actually accept that as an overall population, when there's enough of us that can actually forward that conversation with numbers where it gets accepted by the rest that are kind of weak, if you will, the followers. But that's where we're at. So does it require another step closer to death? One step closer to the precipice? I don't know. I don't have a good enough feel on the pulse of what's going on. I'm talking to the teachers of teachers. I'm helping you guys because you're helping everybody. You guys are very aware of what's going on. Like, my audience is unique, unlike the general audience, which I don't do well with normally, frankly. And crazy always seems to know where I'm at. That's never fun. Yeah, they just show up and you're like, wow, where the frick do you come from? Another hoax dropped today. Another one. This is different. An attempt to stop Americans voting for Trump. They're now claiming he simulated performing oral sex on the microphone stand. This is funny. This is actually, I got the whole bit, I think, and this, I guess it's the second one. But he actually does, like, one, I was bitching about the way they mic him as it was already. Like, the PA system at the place we were at was horrible. And Trump was very quiet. Ben Carson was like, damn near you couldn't hear him. And so Trump has got the same problem here. He's actually having to talk about how he's now having to speak louder, which is hard on the voice. It is hard on the voice to have to do that. I've got my mic is very sensitive. Like, when the helicopters fly over and stuff, you can hear it because it's not really a good studio. But it works. All said. Here's Trump actually doing what he did. Yeah, it is longer. Okay, cool. This is the one I wanted to show. Check this out.
But I don't ask for much. I don't ask for much. The only thing I ask for is a good mic. And this is the second time today that this happened. So now if I were the president, and like a dopey guy like this Kelly, the guy's a total moron, and that happened, I'd fire him, and everybody would say, gee, I'm such a bad person. You're not bad. You fire people. When, for instance, the generals that destroyed us in Afghanistan, every one of them should have been fired. Should have been fired. Hello? Hello? I don't think so. Hello? Is that better? Is that better? That's terrible. Is that better back there? Is that yes or no? What crap. The only thing I ask for is a mic. You don't have to give me, I don't even need a stage. I don't give a damn. Give me a good mic. And I went through 2 of these today. And it knocks the hell out of your throat. But so far I'm doing okay, right? Okay. Is that better? Yeah. And did you notice I came in today, I said, and this is after 4 of these things. I mean, in all fairness, I'm a human being, right? I come in, and here's the problem. I said, oh man, it's too low. I said, it's too low. So, I had to go. Way too low. Way too low. So I walk in, I said, shit, there's nothing worse than I walk in like this, and did you notice? I was bending over like this, hello. And then everybody says, is there something wrong with his back? What the hell is wrong with that guy? They're saying, he's cognitively impaired and physically impaired. There's something wrong with them all because I have guys that are stupid back there. All right, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do, right? What a shame. But we're gonna come back. I'm gonna give you a free performance back in that corner. You got a bad area back there. But I think this is better. I think it's probably better.
So he's having some issues. Now, whether it's people... Whether it's people... Oh, good Lord. This is one of these again. Ugh. I don't like that. Yeah, unfortunate. Washington Governor Jay Inslee on Friday has activated the National Guard because he's expecting things to get strange around election time. So he's got them activated. She's prepared November 4th and ending just at midnight Thursday, November 7th, which I'm guessing is when they're expecting to have delivered their verdict. Going to be interesting. Washington's pretty blue state. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, some say maybe not in other parts of it. I don't know. I just feel like everyone I ever talked to, all the friends and family I've got up there, it's odd. Judge has dismissed New York City Mayor Eric Adams' assertion that federal authorities improperly disclosed confidential grand jury details to the media before the indictment. I just think it's funny. Sucks when it happens to you, doesn't it? They do it to Trump all the time. It's like, yeah, you do it. Oh, it's okay. We'll leak it out. So all these people know what's going on. And then they start to assume guilt. And then it messes up the jury pool. Doesn't it, Eric? Sucks. Doesn't it? I don't know if you're a good guy. I'm reasonably sure you're not. But, yeah. Welcome to the club, I guess, man. Sucks being a criminal, man. Be gangsta, yo. So here's the thing about New York that's kind of interesting. This is a big story that's going around right now. There is this man that apparently his baby squirrel came into his possession because a mother's died, and he had a little family thing of animals or whatever, I forget what they call it. But he was at conservation or whatever. He saved it, and he raised this thing, and it became like his pet. And they actually had two weird animals, a squirrel and a raccoon, I think is the other one. Or it was that dude from Guardians of the Galaxy. Couldn't tell, but I think it was a raccoon. And New York found out about it. They got butthurt. They said it didn't seem right. Shouldn't be doing that because this guy had a raccoon and a squirrel as pets. So they came into where he lived. They arrested him. They searched his premises, found these two animals, took them, and euthanized them. Dude didn't even find out until after he read the news report finding out that his animals got killed. He didn't know that. He thought he was going to get his animals back. He was just like, I went to jail for whatever. I got to pay a fine. I don't even know what his part of the story is. But no. Finds out they killed his two pets because there was some problem with him having these kinds of animals as pets, which I'm sure there is. So they killed him. That's just like heartless, man. So Eric Adams, not a lot of sympathy. I really, really don't. Kamala Harris, just something to keep in mind. Just picture her for those of you that aren't watching, Just picture Kamala Harris in your mind. Just whatever douchey picture of her works, that's fine. No children, no religion, no moral values, no integrity, no pride of country, no likability, no intelligence, no responsibility, no honesty, no respect. Nothing presidential about her. I kind of agree. Flamboyant Tim, I don't know. I don't want to get into the game as much, but Tampon Tim, I like that nickname a lot more. He's called Elon Musk gay. Elon Musk basically said, I don't have a problem with being called gay. That's no big deal. But Tampon Tim decided this was the direction he was going to try to go to put down the Trump thing. Again, it's just interesting to see how these guys roll sometimes.
If you're a billionaire, Elon Musk, for example, say, that guy got it. Michigan knows that word. Look, that dude got a tax cut. If you're a billionaire, Elon Musk, for example, say, that guy.
Yeah, that's weird. So yeah, Elon Musk, I don't have a problem with being called gay. And, you could always have the argument of it technically means happy, I think, is what the definition of that word is. So, sure. Be gay. Harris campaign ads amplify different parts of her message on Gaza and Israel and Michigan and Pennsylvania. She's got two different campaign things that are saying kind of, opposing things. Anyone surprised? So Pennsylvania and Michigan are the two places trying to amplify her messages out there. And so ads are running in Pennsylvania where undecided Jewish voters could factor into the state's outcome, highlighting how she will stand up for Israel's right to defend itself. Meanwhile, Ads targeted in Michigan with its large Arab American population highlight how she will not be silent about the human suffering occurring in Gaza. Kind of opposing angles, and we've heard her say plenty of things publicly nonetheless, so yeah, not a huge surprise, I guess, at least to me. So this week, it was reported that the IRS whistleblower Gary Shapley, we talked about this, but this is a good little summation in case you forgot. But the whistleblower Gary Shapley, he was the one that kind of nailed down the whole Hunter thing, and because of him, Hunter actually got busted and got a felony against him, was because of this whistleblower and what he admitted to, and that was actually facts that then got used in the thing. So the IRS hates him. He worked for the IRS, does work for the IRS, but they hate his ass because, well, he just messed up their plan. The way they protect those that they want to protect and just assault those that they don't. So the funny thing is they're now kind of going after him, right? You're not supposed to retaliate, but they seem to be retaliating because they're like, either you got to transfer, you got to quit, or you take a demotion. That's your choice because he's a whistleblower. Because he told the truth that messed up their plan with the president. Now, again, I'd love to know who started that, but Comer and Jordan and Smith are all looking into it, so we'll find out where they get for that. Folks, they're going to possibly try to get some sort of weird sickness to kick through, especially if they get pissed enough at us. One of the things that they have are viruses. Viruses are just kind of one of the worst. This is, I think, one of the greatest things about this site. This site actually does so many things. It's a bummer that I don't actually try to sell the whole myriad of suite because they actually got a whole bunch of cool stuff. They've got membership stuff. They actually try to get people off of prescription drugs. They've got a few different things. They've got virtual care. You can talk to a doctor, get medical emergency kits, which is what I really think is super cool, and we'll get there in a sec. The Contagion Kit's the one. It's the antiviral, by the way, the Contagion Kit. That's the one. TWC.health/OTF. That's the wellness company. TWC.health/OTF. They've also got this spike support formula for the people that rolled up the sleeve, or you're living with someone that rolled up the sleeve. You're worried about the spike proteins, the ones that they shed especially, that could end up inside of you. One of the things that's great is this spike support formula. It actually bonds specifically to that cleavage site. So it binds to the virus and takes it out of business, takes it out of action. So you end up with a bunch of these, and they're happy to be together. It's a fun little, it's harder to work into a cell than it is to just bind with this cool little thing. It's just much easier, less effort. So it's easy and good. So it's a great support formula to actually get those spikes out of you, for those of you that are interested in trying to do that. That said, the Contagion Kit is amazing. Highly recommend it. It has got all the right ingredients in it. We've got the ivermectin, 25 tablets. You got hydroxychloroquine, 20 tablets. The generic Z-Pack, 12 tablets of that. Generic Tamiflu, you've got 10 tablets of that. You've also got the nebulizer for the Pulmicort, which is like a upper respiratory thing. Like, I don't know if it works for asthma. I always say this because I don't know. I'm figuring at some point I got to see my friend, but her husband's been going through chemo and her mom's dying, so she's kind of got a lot on her plate. So yeah, I sometimes don't get to see this lady on the weekends. But all said, we know they're in spirit, but there's wonderful products that could protect you from these viral infections that could find us. Now, these kits are supposedly good for one person. They're good for 2 years, too. If you use it once, say one of you get sick, and then you want to get a refill, you actually can get a refill at a discounted price. So they've got those, too. Med replenishments. So for any of the med kits, they'll actually replenish within 2 years for a reduced price. So it's very cool. Part of the price, too, I think, is getting the prescription, essentially. The doctor's got to okay this. So it's all legal, and it's all perfect. It's beautiful. So some great doctors. Dr. Drew Pensky was someone I grew up listening to. I still think he's a pretty good guy. Maybe he's made choices. Who knows? But I think he's a good guy. Dr. McCullough, another great doctor. Just people that I think for years have tried to do good. And that's a powerful thing. So they're kind of behind this company, and they make this possible. So beautiful stuff. Go to twc.health/OTF, twc.health/OTF. And again, they've got a bunch of other kits. The medical emergency kit, which has antibacterials. And I mean, these really, you should check the kits out. All the med kits are friggin' fantastic. twc.health/OTF. Yeah, medical, contagion, first aid, travel emergency, kids emergency. That's got the EpiPen. Again, a lot of really, really, really cool stuff. twc.health/OTF. All right, our team doing some pretty cool stuff right now, and I wanted to highlight some of it. Oh, yeah, so they're threatening to, well, I don't know. Elon Musk is facing potential immigration problems for allegedly working in America without an employment visa and could arguably be deported, is what a legal expert told Newsweek. So this is a story they're floating around right now that we're going to apparently try to actually kick him out of the country. We'll bring in millions of people that are criminal and everything else. But this dude that runs a space company, makes electric cars and all that stuff, it just politically doesn't agree with your side. We need to send his ass packing. How much money has Elon probably paid in taxes? Shit, he's got 11 kids? I don't know, he's got a shit ton of kids. That'll work. I don't have to remember the specifics. It's just like a giant number. I was like, I can't, my brain's like, no one would have that many children. Apparently they would. Without even owning a farm, which makes sense when you do that, right? I get it then. Ron Paul would actually join. Oh, that's the other part of that story. So Elon Musk was like, yeah, it'd be cool to have Ron Paul be a part of this. Somehow that was a conversation that's going. Well, Ron Paul actually said, hell yeah, I'd totally join you. I'll get in on this. So, yeah, there's a little discussion going on between these two about that. Oh, here's where they say it. I don't know why I had those out of order. Maybe I just suck. But, yeah, so here's where he's saying it would be great to have Ron Paul. Apparently, Ron Paul has agreed to coming in. So that's another interesting individual that we're bringing to the fold here. We've got a powerful group of people. Here's Donald Trump, though, of Dearborn, Michigan. Again, hanging out with a bunch of Muslims, I believe. Again, some people might be a little touchy about that. I just think it's all about uniting. There's a lot of people that don't necessarily believe what I believe or what you believe or what, right? Like, especially when it comes to conspiracies. We should be used to that by now. Doesn't mean they're bad people. Doesn't mean we should hate them, right? So I think it's important that we unite together.
Coffee's on me. Let me have one. We're going to need it. You can give them some coffee, too. Calm them down, right? You want some coffee? You want some? You can have some.
Is it the plain black coffee? Yeah. Anything special?
I don't drink coffee, but these are minor things. Coffee's on me.
That is a skinny girl. She needs to eat some meat or something. I don't know what's going on. What's going on, sweetheart? Get you to the gym. I don't know. Need to get some meat on them bones. President Donald Trump bonds with the Muslim community in Dearborn. Again, I feel like I overdid this. So yeah, I don't know why I had this twice. But it's very cool. Get some kids, all that. Maybe it's just because I was trying to point that out. So a lot is coming in the right directions. UK Conservative Party has elected Kemi Badenoch. Say it all douchey, so I don't really know how to say it like as an American. Badenoch. Something like that. This is really fast. We'll play it part. It's weird. So she's a woman and she's black, so she fits the DEI thing a bunch, and he calls it out, which is kind of weird. And then this is the new Conservative Party person that's replacing Rishi Sunak, who sucked. So I don't know. It's just kind of weird. Let me see if I queued this up right.
And I want to start by thanking Richard.
That's not the thing. There was a thing where it showed her being talked about. I apparently have lost that, but it was just a bunch of them. It was, she's all this, and she checked this checkbox, and she's just like smiling and like, So we'll see. It's England. Who friggin' knows? We won't know. We won't know how they feel anyways about it, unless they're angry. Then we'll know. Biden administration announces another $425 million in additional security assistance for Ukraine. Well, because we haven't given enough yet. And he's still in office, so he can still probably make money on these things. But yeah, the DOD announced additional security. They're talking about sending more missiles, anti-air missiles and all that. We are like about 4 seconds away from going to war ourselves with, well, two formidable countries, especially one that hasn't actually gone to war any time recently, so probably has lots of extra ammo at the moment. We don't have enough ammo. We're giving away everything we got when we, in reality, should be stockpiling and literally preparing for what could potentially be happening. We literally would run out of missiles within less than a week, they say, if we actually went into a real war. Probably way faster than that. I've heard actually within hours because of the way the war would probably play out. But it would be bad for sure. And here we are giving more away. And we're not even taking care of our own people for that matter. I mean, again, too much. Sometimes I just got to take a day off, but where it's like the election's coming up, I just feel, I don't know. It's like I can't take a Saturday off. It's bugged me. 2 Saturdays in a row. I thought the one was because I just traveled. Now it's apparently worse. I don't know. I got problems. I got to stop this. President Zelensky issues fresh plea to use Western missiles to blast Russia in a preemptive strike on North Korean troops massing there to strike Ukraine. Think about that now. So now they want to use weapons preemptively, and I think this might be what the Russians are doing, is using the North Koreans as shields. Because if we attack them with our weapons, we are attacking North Korea. We are attacking North Korea. They're not in Ukraine. They're on the other side of Ukraine with Russian troops that are probably about to deploy. This is kind of a smart move. It's a major chess move. It's like, I dare you to take this piece. If you take this piece, you will pay the price. And it won't be worth it. The cost will outweigh it. So now we've got to kind of sit back on our hands and let Russia attack. Don't we? We've got weak leadership, and I think Russia feels the same way as what Trump is telling Bibi Netanyahu. It's like, dude, you got to end this before I get into office because this can't keep going. And I think Russia realizes that too. It's like, all right, we've got to take what we've got to take, deal with what we've got to deal with. We can then call it cool there and just hold it. And then Trump comes in, and that's going to be locked in. And then we're going to be trying to sell this to everybody else. But, I mean, that again, there's going to be a lot more work. I don't think it's going to be as crazy, at least. Well, it will. Anyway, we got a ways to go. I'm just going to step back from that whole comment. Sorry. I'd edit it, but we're all going through this, man. This is crazy. North Korean official in Moscow. U.S. and South Korea are plotting a nuclear strike. So this is, again, just more of that crazy talk that's happening right now. We've got North Korean troops in harm's way from us. It'll be us or England that's weapons would be used, but likely us, most likely. And that would be an actual attack on North Korea. And then all of a sudden they're going to attack South Korea. They're going to attack us. They've got a ICBM that can supposedly reach us. Yeah, maybe one or two. There's whatever. But they've got plenty that could very easily hit South Korea and even Japan if they felt like being total dicks, which I don't even think Japan's done anything wrong here. It's like, why us? It's like, they seem to hate you guys for some reason. I hear you guys did some pretty brutal shit back in the early, what was it, 1900s or further back? Some pretty gnarly stuff. The Chinese and the Japanese are, they're not free from sin either. We're all dirty birds in the killing department. So the Pentagon made a statement from Press Secretary Major General Pat Ryder on the Middle East force postures. It says, in keeping with our commitments to the protection of U.S. citizens and forces in the Middle East, the defense of Israel, and the de-escalation through deterrence and diplomacy, the Secretary of Defense ordered the deployment of additional ballistic missile defense destroyers, fighter squadrons, and tanker aircraft, and several U.S. Air Force B-52 long-range strike bombers to the region. These forces will begin to arrive in coming months as the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group prepares to depart. We are putting some very capable, and B-52s just, I would assume it's mostly going to be cruise missiles that they're just going to load up on that thing. You can put them on the wings. You got these cool little rotary things underneath. They can drop some weapons. Stealth bombers too, but they've got extraordinarily longer range, so you don't really need to put them in harm's way. B-52s, good range for sure, but they're slow as fuck. So yeah, having them closer nearby and just pop up, launch everything, and then fly back down and just stay covered all the time, and then get reloaded. Yeah, they're just monster missile deployment. So again, we are putting a lot of ammunition in this part of the world. I don't know if Trump's behind it, who's behind it. We're watching a movie, right? We all understand that. I don't exactly know who's in control. I think that's what makes the movie so crazy, right? We don't know who's actually got their hands on the steering wheel. We got police detected a pulse on the homeless man. So this, you gotta just remember the story. We talked a little bit about it. Daniel Penny, he was the dude in the New York subway that like choked out a dude. And so what they found out just already when the cops got there, he was holding them, and they're like, why were you doing? He's like, I choked him out. And they're like, all right. Well, the two cops both checked the gentleman's pulse, the homeless dude's pulse. And he had a pulse. Which means Penny actually didn't necessarily kill him, per se. Maybe what he did might have caused the death. But there's already going to be larger questions now because he supposedly was still alive. And how many people have died in police custody? Come on, let's be honest. So it's a funny little wrinkle in that whole story. Also, a federal jury has handed down a guilty verdict in the murder case surrounding the botched arrest of Breonna Taylor. Former Louisville police officer Brett Hankinson was convicted as a result. Jurors found that he used excessive force during the 2020 drug raid that left Taylor dead. The consensus paved the way for the first conviction in the high-profile case, putting away one of 4 officers. And this is one we sort of talked about. All had been accused of violating Taylor's civil rights, with former Detective Kelly Goodlett this past August pleading guilty to the federal conspiracy charge, falsifying the warrant that led to the deadly chain of events. But they also they got out of one of the charges. I thought I had that story, and apparently I thought it was in here. But yeah, they had one of the charges dropped. And then the other one, they were sort of 50-50, and the judge was like, yeah, you need to go back and continue to talk about that. And they don't want a hung jury on that part of it because that might ruin the whole case, frankly. So, I don't know. It looks like they might have busted one of these guys. I'm having a hard time telling the time frame of these stories coming out. We'll keep tabs. Just stuff that could cause riots is the only reason. I feel like it's being handled in a way that makes it harder to cause riots, but this was one of the almost riot-inducing things that happened. So just, again, interesting to see how these things play out right now, timing-wise, and leading up to the election. And maybe, potentially, we might have gotten enough of our people to vote early that maybe our numbers are sufficient. I don't know. Like I said, I don't even want to speculate. I don't want to blow any sunshine up anyone's butt right now. As far as I'm concerned, I'm prepared for the worst. Day after might be tough. And I'm hoping it's not, because it's going to be so much easier to deal with it's not if you're prepared for, so again, hoping for the best. There's a chance, but again, it's just, we'll see what the people choose. That's where it's at. It's in God's hands, frankly, as far as I can do. And then I just help my best to move the ball whenever I have a chance. I love you guys. Thank you for being a part of this ball movement with me. It's a weird journey we're on, but it is a journey nonetheless. And I'm glad I'm on it with you guys. Thank you. Where we go one, we go all. It's on the Fringe with Dan Radio Style.